In this video, we're going to go over 7 common CEO transition types and how to manage them. Hi, I'm Don Tabby, and over the past 25 years, I've helped hundreds of nonprofit leaders plan and manage the turnover in their chief executive position. CEO succession, planning for and managing the change from one chief executive to the next, is the board's most important responsibility and possibly their least understood job. To help your board better understand executive transition and their role, get them to review the companion video in this series, the board's 6 transition tasks. You'll find a link in the description below this video. Before we get into the transition types, let's talk about some overall factors that influence the CEO transition process. There are executive-related factors such as the departure circumstances, how long the executive's been in place, their impact on the organization, and so forth. And there are organizational factors such as size, maturity, operating condition, outlook, and so forth. And together, these factors shape the succession situation. And you need to match your transition management actions to the situation that you're facing. Now, with that, let's dig into those transition types and the management actions. Type number 1, the high-performing organization. The organization is well-led, the programs and operating components are performing well or maybe extremely well. This scenario usually involves a departing executive who's leaving on good terms, often a respected, maybe even a beloved leader. When people talk about the transition, they often hear terms or phrases such as big shoes to fill or hard act to follow. The transition management challenge is to sustain the organization's record of success. Now, the key transition management actions, first of all, don't skip the assessment. Take the time to identify the key factors that are driving the organization's success. Then take those factors into account as you define the future expectations and the job requirements for the CEO role. Second, resist the temptation to find a successor exactly like the departing executive. The leadership attributes that got the organization to where it is today may not spell success in the future. The hiring challenge isn't to fill the old leadership shoes, but define new shoes and then fill them. Third, take a hard look at the executive's current responsibilities and the workload. You may also be facing what's called a hard-to-follow executive situation, which we're going to cover in a moment. Finally, consider using events or other activities to help people come to terms with this change and positive closure to this leadership era. Receptions, roasts, and even that much maligned retirement dinner are all important rituals that can provide a psychological line of demarcation. Type number 2, the underperforming organization. The organization may have stalled and start to decline without a change in direction, strategy, or business model. The organization has lost its mojo and needs serious revitalization. This is one of the most challenging of the transition types because it doesn't have the energy and excitement of the sustained success situation that we just talked about, nor does it have the house on fire clarity of a turnaround, another transition type which we'll be talking about in a moment. The key actions: first, conduct an organizational assessment, or better yet, an organizational sustainability review to get a handle on the underlying issues. In the description below, I'll put a link to information on organizational sustainability. Second, if the situation borders on a turnaround, the board should consider bringing in an interim executive to help turn the corner. A skilled executive from outside the organization would probably be best. Third, you want to reorient the job description. Define a vision for the revitalized organization, then outline at least the major elements of a revitalization plan. And then translate that plan into specifics, the leadership characteristics and early stage priorities for the new executive. Finally, be honest with candidates during the search process about the rejuvenation that's needed. Type number 3, the turnaround. The organization is on the brink of collapse or headed in that direction. Financial, operational, or political challenges are causing a crisis. And it may involve a messy departure of the incumbent executive, which we're going to discuss in a moment. The board has to meet the situation head on and avoid doing what some boards do, which is hide, hire, and hope. Facing a turnaround, some boards discount the situation or minimize the problems. Then they hire the new executive with the hope that the new executive can pull the organization out of the tailspin. Key actions: first of all, stabilize the management situation, appointing an interim executive director if necessary. Second, make an initial assessment of whether the organization is viable or can be made viable. Third, decide whether the organization should continue, whether a merger, acquisition, or even a plan to close down the organization is in order. And fourth, If the decision is to move ahead, then work with the interim to further stabilize the organization and craft a turnaround plan. Now, this is probably going to involve some deeper organizational assessment. Fifth, avoid rushing to hire the new executive without stabilizing the organization first. And finally, be honest with candidates about the organization's challenges. Type number 4, the hard-to-follow executive. The departing executive is a founder or long-tenured executive with probably several more years on the job, or a transformational leader who's substantially grown the organization or reshaped the organization, as well as any other sort of larger-than-life CEO. This type is challenging because of the imprint that these leaders leave on the organization. There are also strong emotional bonds that are about to be severed. Key actions: first of all, make sure that the departure announcement is well planned and carefully handled. The news of the executive's departure could send a shockwave throughout the organization. Second, the CEO job must be unpacked, refitted, and recalibrated to ensure that it's doable for a successor. The senior management team may need to be augmented as well. Third, the board's roles and its relationship with the CEO may need to be reconsidered, and possibly the board's composition re-examined as well. Finally, as in the case of a sustained success situation, look for ways to create positive closure with the departing executive. Type number 5, internal promotion. The board intends to promote an internal candidate without conducting an executive search. Now, this isn't an exclusive type, as it could be in combination with any of the 4 previous types. Key actions: first of all, carefully weigh the pros and cons of this approach. Don't use a promotion as a means to bypass the work involved in conducting a vigorous search and a rigorous selection process. Second, don't skip the prepare task that we discussed in the 6 task video. A promotion should be preceded by the same preparation as a full-on executive search, preparing the organization, preparing the job, and so forth. Third, use a rigorous vetting process and avoid the temptation to confuse familiarity with experience. Your board sometimes put too much weight on a candidate's knowledge about their organization or their familiarity with the candidate. Knowledge and familiarity are no substitute for skills, experience, and leadership attributes. Finally, don't skip the onboarding and support tasks also discussed in the 6 task video. Regardless of where they're coming from, a new CEO is going to face a learning curve, and there's always an extended period of adjustment and relationship building. Type number 6, the messy departure. The departing executive has been fired or forced out, and although the termination might have been abrupt, the situation might have been festering for a while, so there might be an impact on staff morale and possibly stakeholder confidence. The challenge with this type is that the board needs to take action on several fronts at once, especially if there was misconduct or a dramatic event that precipitated the termination. Key actions: first of all, attend to the staff. Messy departures usually involve an emotionally charged environment. Second, sort out the communications plan. And the board might need some crisis communications help if the termination involved a public breach of trust. Third, appoint a temporary CEO, whether an acting from the management ranks or a skilled interim executive from outside the organization. The situation calls for someone with the skills to stabilize the organization, restore morale, and build trust. Fourth, avoid oversteering when hiring the new executive. Don't let the perceived deficiencies of the former executive color the hiring process. Instead, the board needs to focus objectively on the leadership needs of the organization. And finally, don't heap all the blame on the departing executive. Making them the scapegoat or magnifying their shortcomings can mask other contributing factors. Type number 7, first hire. The organization is hiring its first executive because it's a startup or it's an established nonprofit that's shifting from all volunteer management to paid staff. In established organizations, the challenge is often peeling the board members and volunteers' hands off the management roles and creating a distinction between what's now management and what's now governance. Key actions: first of all, design a realistic set of duties and expectations for the new role. Second, communicate clearly what's changing and what's not changing, what decisions and responsibilities are going to be transferred over to the executive. Third, have a proactive process to redefine the volunteer roles and recast the committees that have operational functions. Fourth, proactively redefine the board role away from management to strictly governance. And finally, manage the expectations. This is a culture change process, and old habits die hard, and it might take time for people to come around. If your organization is preparing for a chief executive transition or you're currently going through one, to help your board get started on the right track, get them to take a look at this video and these related videos, the biggest CEO succession mistakes and the board's 6 transition tasks. You'll find links in the description right below this video. And if you have a question, I've also included a contact link in the description that'll take you to a page on my website where you can email me or even book a free one-on-one call. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you back here for another video where I help nonprofit executives and boards navigate executive succession and the other big transitions in their leadership journey.